umZulu wangempela noma ngabe ungowesilisa noma owesifazane uyaqinisekisa ukuthi ukuhamba nokwenza kwakhe ezweni kuvikela isithunzi sezizukulwane noma sesizukulwane sakhe kanjalo nezizukulwane ezizayo.
Botani mawethu, igama lami nguNtsika Swakhile Mii Kasi. Welcome in to the Mii Kasi Su Kasii show on the ACWS network as we are about to dive into the history, the untold tapestry of the KZN, episode 8. Please like, comment, subscribe, tell your family about this. Well on our way to 150 subscribers. Thank you for 100 subscribers, our people. As we grow this community, please jump in. Mii Kasi Su Kasii. My hood is your hood, and this is what we call modern day concentration camps. Come on. Today we ferry you on to KwaZulu-Natal, a place where the soil carries secrets, where the mountains speak in echoes, and where the rivers refuse to forget. Here, history refuses to lie buried. It raises with the mist, it breathes through the valleys, and marches alongside everybody who calls this land home. This province is shaped by power and pride, yet fractured by politics. Stitched together by a people who refused to die quietly. Today, we walk through the unseen corridors of its past, unfiltered, unbent, unsoftened. Because the story of KZN is not just a chapter in the South African history, it is a mirror, reflecting everything that we've won and everything that we've lost. Long before settlers stepped on these shores, there was a kingdom that conquered and was born of strategy, rhythm, and thunder. King Shaka Zulu is a name that still trembles through the times. Under his hand, unity became a weapon, discipline became identity, and culture became a shield. The Zulu kingdom rose like a storm cloud, dark, powerful, and unpredictable. And when the European colonial hunger reached these lands, KZN became a battlefield where technology clashed with tenacity. The Anglo-Zulu War was not a simple story of muskets and assahais. It was a contest of world views. It was a contest of power structures as well. It was a contest of two civilizations trying to force themselves onto each other. Isandlwana had proved the unthinkable, that an empire is not invincible. Rock's Drift also showed the cost of the Zulu defiance.
These proud Zulus are the direct descendants of the army of King Cetshwayo that fought so fiercely against the British Redcoats back in the time of Queen Victoria. Normally, the old battlefield in the shadow of Isandlwana Hill lies silent and deserted. But in this centenary year, it holds a special fascination.
If you'd been around in 1879, this is what one of the most significant moments in Zulu history would have looked like. The Battle of Isandlwana. British forces with state-of-the-art weaponry had tried to invade Zululand. But Zulu warriors, using mostly traditional weapons like spears, successfully defended their land. It's that never-say-die spirit that the Zulu king is hoping to keep alive.
But even after defeat, the Zulu soul wouldn't be broken. It simply adapted, it survived, and it waited. Its land continued to hold the memories. Its people continued to carry the fire forward. Along came the architects of apartheid, men who were obsessed with maps, borders, boundaries, power, and control. KwaZulu was carved into a Bantustan, which was packaged as a self-ruling independent state, but it was built as a political trap, with most departments remaining in the capital, Pretoria.
I get very depressed when I think that, in fact, even after 100 years, one cannot talk about reconciliation. That, in fact, the problems, that caused the war have not been resolved after 100 years. That I must confess.
So, for Chief Buthelezi, the problems that brought war to Zululand, KwaZulu's former name, are still at hand. As he sees it, the continuing efforts by the white man to subjugate the black, to use his labour and to take his land. To support this, he can point to the fact that KwaZulu, as drawn by Pretoria, consists of over 20 separate parcels of land, scattered across the white areas that make up Natal province. In places, one side of a road is black, the other white. Chief Buthelezi agreed in 1972 to accept self-government for KwaZulu, literally the place of the Zulus. It's the step in the Pretoria Plan that comes before independence for designated homelands. But the chief has resisted outright independence because it would mean giving up Zulu rights in the rest of the country. He's campaigned successfully at home on a no independence ticket.
Chief Mangosuthu had stood at the crossroads, torn between traditional authority and a state machinery that fed in power on one hand, as well as, on the other hand, it was poisoning its people. INKATHA didn't come or wasn't born as a weapon. It was born as a cultural movement. But apartheid reached it in its infancy, right at its roots, and it became a tool of division. Behind the boardroom doors and the military gates, INKATHA and the state played a deadly duet: guns, money, and state-sponsored promises. And this led to the price being paid by ordinary people in the dusty streets of townships. From Umlazi to KwaMashu, from Claremont to Richmond. Between the late 1970s and the early 1990s, KZN bled profusely, not from tribalism, but from the lies that the historians find convenient. You see, tribalism did not smuggle itself into hostels, nor did it smuggle the weapons that caused the dysfunction in the hostels. It did not coordinate hit lists. It did not coordinate kill lists, nor did it give hit squads the right to carry out the hits on these kill lists. This was a clear case of engineering. This is a war that was built in the laboratories of fear from the lighter hue.
What we are saying is not a threat. It is not a threat. We have never killed. This is our time now to show that we can also kill. Therefore, any loss of life from today onward, Mr. Mandela will be responsible for that. And now we are on the way to KwaZulu-Natal to face the soldiers that have been deployed in Ezingolweni by even fighting if it is necessary to do that. We are demanding that every Zulu person not to pay tax at work, because that money is buying weapons to kill us, and killers are supported by this money. If Mr. Mandela and his army are not logged, the SPU members are going to make sure that they kill more than 1,000 people a day.
On the face of it, the recent violence in townships around Johannesburg saw black pitted against black, a continuation and extension of the 5-year power struggle in Natal province, in which thousands have been killed. South Africa's right-wingers have claimed the township violence is fueled by tribalism. But now there's strong evidence that there's a third force operating, blacks used by right-wing whites trying to drown South Africa's peace process in blood. The massacre of commuters on a train to Soweto in September was the clearest indication yet of extremist involvement in South Africa's township war. These weren't random killings, but carefully planned and precisely executed. It was almost certainly this incident which finally persuaded President F.W. de Klerk of a sinister third force exacerbating the black-on-black violence. On one side of the factional war is Chief Mangosuthu Buthelez's INKATHA movement. The Zulu leader wants recognition as a major player in the constitutional negotiations expected to begin next year. In essence, he'd like to sit at the same table as his rival Nelson Mandela. But on the other side, Jose Chief Mandela and the African National Congress have clearly marked their territory as the post-apartheid government in waiting, with no room for Buthelezi. While not denying that deep divisions do exist, ANC leaders are adamant that some hidden hand or third force is fomenting the violence.
Force, which is backed up by the same security officers the same security forces which are supposed to maintain law and order in this country.
As the ANC continued to operate underground, INKATHA became the public counterweight. But the real puppeteers were in Pretoria, where they were armed with intelligence files, covert funding, and public and political chessboard pieces. You can ask the mothers who buried their sons. You can ask the children who slept under their beds. You can even ask the families that were split by these hostile boundaries. This was never our culture. This was clear manipulation, a state-sponsored civil war that has continued to scar generations. And in the shadows, the first casualty was the truth.
In June 1992, Mkhize and his friends went on a killing spree in the Vaal Triangle, killing women, babies, and old people. It brought this country to the brink of civil war. Mkhize was arrested and sentenced to 18 years for his part in the massacre. Now he and his two best friends are free men. In November last year, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission gave the killers amnesty.
Abantu abaningi kwasekunokuhlukumezeka ngoba babelimala abantu ngaphakathi abanye benyelwa labafowabo abanye njalo mabe edrobheni uthola ukuthi kuthiwa nawo umuntu esefile sebanjiwe edrobheni kwaze kwafika laba abantu bethi bazayiphindisela kimi ngabona ukuthi I know isinqumo ngesithatha.
When we speak of political violence, we often speak of men, but in the houses, on the buses, and in the safe houses in South Africa and abroad, the ladies or the women in Bogodo were the architects of survival. They hid activists under blankets, they fed entire safe networks, and they smuggled messages through markets and funerals. They negotiated peace where the men negotiated death. Women carried the identity like a weapon, Zulu pride, not as a violence, but as a memory, dignity, and a strength. In KZN, women were not footnotes, they were the foundation of the struggle. If you pay close attention to the story of KZN, its fight never stayed local. It stretched into exile camps in Mozambique, Botswana, Zambia, and Tanzania, into anti-apartheid networks in London, Lusaka, Chicago, and even Harare. It moved into student uprisings across the continent and into church movements that turned now prayers into protests.
Capital of Mozambique, Maputo. Since independence from Portugal, Mozambique has had a Marxist leader, President Machel. He has proved no friend of the Pretoria government and has given support to the African National Congress, the black opposition banned in South Africa. It was a situation that South Africa found intolerable. It sent an elite squad across the border and into the suburbs of Maputo early in 1981 against the ANC. The targets, 3 homes where ANC officers and guerrillas were living. The attack was carried out with rockets, machine guns, and bazookas. 11 ANC men and 1 South African died.
The truth remains to be that our communities were manipulated, youth was militarized, and our hostels were weaponized, and the history was rewritten to shift the blame. Today, we must confront the myths, not with shame, but with clarity, information, and dialect. Because healing does not come from forgetting, but it comes from naming the wound. KwaZulu-Natal walks with the ghosts, political assassinations, and still stalking of councillors. Factional wounds still bleed in silence, and poverty still clings to the valleys where the factories once roared. But the spirit, you see, the spirit of the people remains unbroken. KZN continues to breathe resilience. This province is not just a battleground, it is a promise. It is a compass if we listen to it. May we continue to listen, may we continue to learn, and may we continue to lead. This has been Mii Kasi Su Kasii. I have been Blaq Steaze. Aluta continua.
Since the BOIPATONG massacre, there have been claims about the involvement of the security forces. Although the TRC could find no evidence to support this involvement, most victims and survivors continue to believe that the police assisted the INKATHA MP. This issue hangs heavily over the meeting.
Yes, ngoba kufanele abe khona nawo ecela uxolo ukuthi nesicela uxolo nabo babe khona ngoba ngeke liyenze lokho lilodwa ni lithathe izinto izimpahla ngezindlela zibulala abantu ngapha uthwala izinto ngapha liyabulala emayipaso
basePitori ukubhejwa kwethu ufazi bamaphoyisa babona ukuthi abukho zange bemukeleke nala kwikhomishini into engazange emukeleke